friends. Welcome into the Early Edge NFL Prop Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I'm here in the Florida studios with my friend, Uncle Dave Richard. We have Sia Nejad, Alex PropStarz Selznick joining us as well. We're running through all of our favorite props. We're going to talk quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, I don't know, wide receivers maybe, guys. We're going to get through all the props we love. We'll show you our best bets at the end of the show. It's going to be a good time. Now, like I said, Uncle Dave, you're with me here in studio, so I feel like I'm going to start with you and our quarterback props. Passing, who do you like?
I like Carson Wentz to go under 30.5 pass attempts against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's just go right to Ireland to start the game. Green is big in Ireland. Green's big on this show, too. We know one thing about Carson Wentz last week. He did not throw the ball very much, and I don't think he's going to have to throw the ball very much again this week because that Steelers run defense, it has yet to look good in a game this year. The Vikings will want to lean on Jordan Mason again. The Pittsburgh pass rush may also take some attempts away via sacks. We know that their pass rush is pretty good, and Carson Wentz, man, he's not that mobile. He can't get away from pass rush pressure that easily. I think it all leads to a game script that goes against Carson Wentz having to put the ball in the air 31 plus times. And the Vikings this year have yet to have a game where their quarterbacks collectively have thrown the ball more than 24 times in a game. So this is an easy under to go with. It's my favorite bet of the week. Carson Wentz under 30.5 pass attempts, and the odds are minus 112, so that makes it even better. It's not too juicy.
Starting the show with the best bet. That's what we like to see. And under there and over for you, PropStarz, and you're looking in this Colts-Rams game.
I am, and I'm backing Daniel Jones here to go over 212 passing yards. Daniel Jones is having a superb season. Some of the underlying metrics are unbelievable. A 59% success rate, 15.6 EPA per play. To put that in perspective, Tom Brady in that 2007 season, the historic season, 57% rate and 15.1 EPA. That is how good Daniel Jones has been. He is going to regress, and he's been phenomenal. He can still be phenomenal and regress here. But I've just been so impressed with the way that he is running the Shane Steichen offense. Opposing teams are blitzing him at the highest rate in the NFL, and he has totally just been mistake-free thus far this season. His grasp of this offense is tremendous. The RPO, I love how they built the offense around his strength, his ability to escape the pocket, throw on the run here. I also like this matchup, considering we're getting a very low number. He's eclipsed this in all three games, playing the Rams here, who do have a good defense. However, this game has a 50-point total. If you're telling me you're giving me Daniel Jones right now, with exceptional weapons, I might add, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, and the tight end, who we talk about all the time, and Tyler Warren, and just 212 yards. I always talk about getting cheap pieces in games with potential that are potential shootouts. This is a great example of that. This is my favorite prop on the board. I love me some Daniel Jones here heading into week 4.
PropStarz, Sia, before I get to you, is it crazy to say Daniel Jones could be in the MVP conversation? You say he's going to regress, but what if he doesn't, people?
Well, he's going to regress a little bit, but he can regress and still win the MVP. He's played that well. So certainly throughout the first 3 weeks, he's been as good as any player in the NFL. According to the advanced metrics, he's been the best player in the NFL by a significant margin, I might add. So, yeah, if the season ended today, he'd certainly have my vote.
All right, Sia, talking about quarterbacks that have been playing well. Caleb Williams coming off of his best game, really, of his career, and you're looking at him this week over on passing yards.
Yeah, and I'm no Caleb Williams fan. I've made that pretty clear over the last couple of years. But I do like this spot against the Las Vegas Raiders. By the way, I want to say I do kind of like the Daniel Jones play, but I also think there's going to be a market correction with the Colts. We'll get to that later with some of my leans. But listen, Caleb Williams has been slinging around. We saw against the Cowboys defense. Granted, the Cowboys defense, very, very bad. But this Raiders defense, and particularly the secondary, also not very good. They give up a bunch of chunk plays. I usually like to come to this show with the longest completion prop, which, oh, by the way, for Caleb Williams is 34.5 yards. I actually like the over there, too. But I think, first of all, the Raiders are going to push the Bears. I think the Raiders are probably going to win this game. I think Geno Smith is going to have an easy time throwing the ball. It's going to force Caleb to throw the ball. You look at the Raiders' rush defense. It's not very good, but neither is DeAndre Swift and this running game for the Chicago Bears. So I think all of this is on Caleb Williams. I like him to go. I think this number is very low. I like him to go over 224.5 passing yards in a back-and-forth affair that might get to 50 points.
Yeah, just 1.5 point spread there. You mentioned it. Swift really hasn't done much. I'm curious, Dave, if you think we see a little more from him out of the backfield this week?
I think the Bears want to try and get him going. They really don't have any alternatives to their run game, but it's a combination of him not being the most efficient running back. Certainly his vision is a problem, and the offensive line isn't that great. I've actually studied the Raiders' run defense, and I was surprised with how poorly they played last week. Maybe that invites some extra opportunities for DeAndre Swift. I looked at his totals, too, for yardage, for carries. I didn't really feel comfortable taking anything there, so that's a stay away. But I do like the passing yards for Caleb Williams.
PropStarz, any thoughts on this one?
It makes sense on paper. Not something I'm rushing out to play right now, but certainly I thought Sia made a compelling case. And it looks like this game does have some potential to be high scoring.
And it sounds like we might have a potential of a showdown with Daniel Jones. Maybe I heard that wrong, but we'll get to that later. I'm curious what you guys think about an Aaron Rodgers interception. Can I interest you in that? Got it at plus 106 in this Vikings-Steelers game. Right now, quarterbacks are facing pressure on over 40% of their dropbacks against this Vikings front. That is the highest rate in the NFL, and that is not good news for one Aaron Rodgers, who has been sacked at the 10th highest rate. Maybe not a ton of turnovers on the sheet, but the second highest turnover-worthy throw rate behind only Jake Browning. So, guys, Aaron Rodgers, interception, not the craziest thing when you think about the pressure that he's going to be facing.
Not the craziest thing, and he's thrown an interception in each of his last 2 games. He threw one against New England, 2 against Seattle. You nailed it with the pass rush for the Vikings. I don't love that Andrew Van Ginkel isn't going to play. He's one of the Vikings' best pass rushers, and with him being out, that does make it a little bit easier. And Aaron Rodgers is getting the ball out fast. That's another problem. So if they're pressuring him, they've got to do it immediately. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it as much, but at plus money, it's worth a sprinkle on Rodgers to throw a pick.
PropStarz, how do you feel about Rodgers in general with this offense, and any other prop outside of interception for him?
Yeah, having watched Aaron Rodgers, he's not playing good football right now. I even think his numbers are a little misleading from that first game. He just hasn't looked good. If you look again under the hood at the advanced metrics, they paint a pretty ugly picture. If we look at EPA per play, there's just a couple throws he makes per game that are just completely perplexing as well. So I definitely think he's going to be facing a ton of pressure. We know that Brian Flores likes to bring the heat, so I think it is a good look here. I think there's a good chance he does put up a duck or two.
Claudia, I have to add this very quick note because I had this in my notes. When he's been pressured this year, Rodgers, when he's been pressured, his completion rate is 27.3%. That's pathetic. His interception rate is 9.1%. That's basically 1 out of every 10 throws is picked off.
Yeah.
That helps sell me on this one. I like this one a little bit more now.
Oh.
And this is Claudia, this is a Brian Flores defense. They know Rodgers wants to get the ball out fast. They're going to be sitting and jumping some of these routes for sure. So I really like this play. And oh, by the way, on SportsLine, my first bet of the week, and maybe this is a chalky, I'm walking into something bet, Vikings minus 2.5. I love the Carson Wentz play. I like Jordan Mason in this game. Again, that's the conventional wisdom. So maybe I'm walking into something that's just a little too easy. But at the end of the day, I think the Vikings roll here by 3 or more.
I'm right there with you. Sia, Steelers have 4 guys on the injury report on defense, so I do like the Vikings under that key number of 3. Those are the quarterback props. We've got running backs coming up next. And don't forget to check out SportsLine for all these bets and more. We'll be right back after the break here on The Early Edge. Welcome back into the Early Edge. We're running through all of our favorite props for NFL Week 4 here with Sia, Dave, Alex. I'm Claudia. We just talked about quarterbacks. Now it's time to talk running backs. And off camera, I mentioned Omarion Hampton. I was going to go to you, PropStarz, first to talk about. And then Dave goes, I loved watching him this weekend. So we're excited about this player in this matchup with the Chargers and Giants. Alex, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm backing the rookie running back here, Claudia. I'm going over 66.5 rushing yards for Hampton versus the Giants. Uncle Dave and I were talking at break. Omari and Hampton last week looked really good. Prior to that, it was a little bit spotty, but we saw why the Chargers were as high and invested the sort of draft capital that they did in Hampton last week, particularly in the second half of the game. But I love this Chargers offense, and now no Najee Harris in that Charger backfield. Omarion Hampton set to be the feature running back and what might be the best offense in the NFL right now. Certainly top three, and they've been very good. And I love this matchup facing the New York Giants. The New York Giants, 32nd in rushing DVOA, 30th in rushing EPA allowed. So this is not a good run defense. The Chargers are checking in as nearly a touchdown favorite. So I think we're going to have some game script as well. That's definitely going to lead to a healthy workload for Omarion Hampton, who again looked good last week. Very impressed. I think he's going to have some explosive runs. I think this will kind of be his coming out party against the Giants here. So love Hampton this week.
Uncle Dave, what excited you about him?
First of all, I don't know who Alex is, and you introduced him as Alex. I know him as Proppy, PropStarz.
He has three names to me.
He's got a bunch of names, but Proppy is certainly one of them. Number two, I felt like Hampton got real comfortable in the second half last week. The offensive line's kind of still an issue for me for the Chargers, but this matchup is great. I mean, the Chiefs' run game got going a little bit against these Giants last Sunday night. So I think the door's wide open for Hampton to get 70-plus rushing yards.
All right, I'm going to swing it to you for the other LA team. The Rams, you're going with Blake Corum over on rush yards against the Colts.
Yeah, this one's going to seem a little speculative, but I love the trend that I'm seeing with Blake Corum. First of all, this is Kyren Williams' backfield, 100% Kyren Williams' backfield, but he is getting about 70%, or actually more than 70% of the rushing attempts, which does mean Blake Corum is coming in. We see week 1, he only had 1 carry. Week 2, he had 5 carries. Week 3, he had 8 carries. So his rushing attempt prop is 5.5. I do like the over there. But the reason I'm taking the over rushing yards 18.5 for Blake Corum is because he's been so efficient over the last 2 games with his limited carries, 6.6 and 8.8 yards per carry, that I think he can get this done in 4 or 5 carries, especially against a Colts defense that doesn't do a great job stopping the run, allowing 4.6 yards per carry. I just think this combination of things, and you add the fact this is likely a neutral to positive game script for the Rams, a lot of rushing attempts, a lot of getting in, winning the game, and getting out. We're going to see a lot of Kyren Williams, yes, but we're going to see more Blake Corum than you think. He's going to be just as efficient as he has been, and I think he can get to 20 yards very easily.
Yeah, and like you said, respect from the market, pushing them over that key number of 3, getting the hook on them, laying it. Dave, you were smiling. Does that mean you like this, or should we just talk a little Patrick Mahomes?
I think we should walk right over to Patrick Mahomes, who's not a running back, but it's the rushing prop that I like, and I know that Properoo does not like it when we mix our props up and we take a quarterback who runs or a running back that catches passes. But I can't help myself here. Patrick Mahomes over 4.5 rush attempts against the Baltimore Ravens. It's minus 120, little juicy. I don't mind it. He's been over it in each game this year, and it's been that way because Kansas City's run game has been in the toilet for basically 2 of 3 games this year. It really wasn't that great against the Giants either. It's just how bad the Giants' run defense is. I would expect a bounce-back effort from the Ravens' run defense after getting spanked by the Lions last week, and that will inhibit the running backs. It's the Ravens playing a decent amount of man-to-man, especially on 3rd down, that could open the door for Mahomes to be a threat with his legs and to take off. And all we're looking for is 5 carries. And he's done that a bunch, and that includes kneel downs, by the way. I think he'll get there because he's taking on so much with this offense right now. And this is a desperation game for both teams. The loser of this game is 1-3.
Crazy.
That's a problem. So I think that we need to see Mahomes. I think Mahomes will want to do everything he can to win the game, and that means taking off when there's nothing available downfield. Over 4.5 receptions? No. He's not catching 5 passes. And we get better odds than
He's
minus
passing.
120 on
He's
that.
rushing. He's catching.
He's going to do,
Josh
the whole
Allen
water
did
boy
it.
thing.
Did Josh Allen
He
did that?
caught
Remember?
8 passes. He didn't
caught
catch
8
5.
passes. Yeah.
He's going to run 5+ times. It's what Mahomes does in these clutch games.
Probably.
I was licking my chops getting ready to offer Dave a showdown for Mahomes under 4.5 receptions. But I do like the rushing attempts quite a bit. We've seen Mahomes throughout his career in high leverage situations. He's a much more willing runner. If you look at his splits in the postseason, for example, he runs the ball at a much higher frequency compared to the regular season. As Dave mentioned, this is a must-win game for both of these teams. You add in kneel downs as well, both the first half and the second half. Obviously, we know the Chiefs, even though it is a difficult opponent, are certainly live to win the football game. I like this look quite a bit as well.
All right, I want to go back to this Chargers-Giants game. Cam Scatterbo. First of all, injuries we'll get to in a second, but him as a player in general, if you didn't see him at college, you should take a look at this game. Just last week, 60 yards rushing, 61 receiving against the Chiefs, 7 missed tackles he forced, 3 explosive runs, and who else is going to get the ball? Tyrone Tracy is doubtful with a shoulder. Wide receiver Malik Neighbor is a little banged up. I know he's good to go. Darius Slayton, though, wide receiver is limited. Theo Johnson at tight end is limited. And who else is a rookie quarterback's best friend other than a tight end? It's a pass-catching back, and that's what Cam Scatterbo is. I love this rushing plus receiving market. Over 77.5. Shop around, that's the lowest number I saw, but I'm seeing this get jacked up because there's no other place but to go over here, Sia. Because why would you go under? Who else is going to catch and run the ball?
I love what Scatterbo does after contact. I mean, his balance and his ability to shake off tackles. I mean, I just think the extra efforts alone are probably going to get you there. You know who he reminds me of in terms of his running style? I think a lot of people say Isaiah Pacheco. Marion Barber. He's just looking for contact and just trying to run people over. I like Cam Scatterbo. This is a high line, but again, I think you're right. I think Cam Scatterbo gets there rushing and receiving.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Dave, any thoughts?
There was an interesting line on his receptions. You'd think that after the game that he just had, where he had 6 grabs in the game, 8 targets, that it would be high. It was only 2.5, and it was plus money to the over. And it made me think, well, why would that be? Why is that? And I think the answer is Jackson Dart's a runner. So I don't know how much he's going to actually check down to Cam Scatterbo. But that being said, even if Scatterbo gets away with just 2 catches in the game, 1 catch in the game, I think he can run and add some yards after contact against the Chargers defense. I think the Giants are live to win the game. I really do. I'm a big fan of Jackson Dart, and I think we can see Cam Scatterbo maybe just on rushing alone get to 80 yards. I might go down with the ship with the Giants. A lot of people have, but Scatterbo and Dart, I think that they make that team better, and the offensive line's healthy too.
Offensive line is healthy. Andrew Thomas didn't go full go last week. I'm curious how much he goes here, but of course that's important on your blind side with a young quarterback like Jackson Dart. Yes, maybe he's more, wants to scramble more so than check down, but I still think there might be some options there. 2.5 is very low though for catches. Is that crazy to you, PropStarz? Yeah. Why would
it seems low? It seems low. I will say the quarterback change, as Dave mentioned. I am very high on Jackson Dart for the record, and I do think he'll have some success. But Russell Wilson looks down the field, and if he doesn't see anything down the field, he checks down to his running backs as much as any quarterback in the league. So he certainly is willing to pepper the running backs with targets, whereas Dart may be more a willing runner in those situations. But I do agree the line does seem a little fishy and low, the receptions line. I do like that you're attacking the combination line. That kind of shields you from game script here, whether the Giants are trailing or leading. Scatterbo is going to be heavily involved here. So I like this quite a bit, Claudia.
Right in my head, Proppy. I know you have one more, but don't worry. We'll get to all the picks that we missed at the end of the show. You can also go to SportsLine to catch all of these picks and more. Coming up next, receiving props, receivers, tight ends, all that and more on the Early Edge. What's up, friends? We're back here on the Early Edge running through our favorite props for week 4. And a reminder, if you haven't already, go check out SportsLine because all of these props, the ones we haven't gotten to, they're all there. Plus, you can catch them earlier in the week. We're sort of chasing the numbers on some of these, which we'll get to with this prop you have, Sia. Packers, Cowboys, Matthew Golden, you locked it in on SportsLine at 36 in the hook, and it's where now?
It's now 42.5. So forgive me if we see 36.5 on the screen. 42.5 in some places, as high as 44.5 at other places. Let's grade me on the 42.5 since it's a Friday.
That's a good man right there.
Good advertisement for SportsLine, folks. I did put this in on Tuesday, or I think it was Tuesday night or Wednesday very early morning at 36.5. Here's the thing. This was the one prop I hit last week. I went 1-2 last week. And by the way, thank you, Dave, for not embarrassing me with your 2-0 showdown victory over me. We can get to the details of that later. Golden is golden. I love his situation. He was on the field for 80% of dropbacks. He's one of two primary receivers, with Dontavian Wicks being in those 11 personnel sets sitting there in the slot. So yes, Kraft is going to get some targets, Dobbs, and even Dontavian Wicks, but they are clearly trying to get Golden open. They're trying to create plays for him. And frankly, he would have had a much bigger day than the 52 yards he had last week if not for that fierce Cleveland Browns pass rush. Well, guess what? The Cowboys can't offer that pass rush, even with the offensive line injuries for the Green Bay Packers. Golden will get loose. I think he could have a huge game. So give me the over 36.5, 42.5. Maybe you want to ladder this 50, 60, 70 plus.
Okay, again, important to get ahead of the market, but when you like it that much, just make more money by laddering it. Dave, let's head over to you, because I mentioned Malik Neighbors was a bit banged up. He was on that injury report. You're going with a prop, though, over, so you're not too worried about that.
Not worried at all. I actually love the quarterback change. We've already talked on the show today about Jackson Dart and what he can do for this Giants offense by comparison to Russell Wilson. I'm going to take Malik Neighbors over 63.5 receiving yards at minus 114. Here's a fun fact. His number is lower than that of Jacoby Myers of the Las Vegas Raiders. What does that tell you about where the Giants stand right now in the public perception world? But I think the difference here is that the quarterback change is a factor. And if you're a rookie quarterback and you're making your first NFL start, do you want to just be real careful with the football and not make a mistake? Or are you going to just absolutely spam your playmaking number one wide receiver? Claudia, you're doing it. You know exactly what it's all about. And I think the Giants are going to have him do it. We know that he's got a bit of a gunslinger mentality. We know that he can push the ball. Jackson Dart is who I'm talking about. Malik Neighbors is going to get a ton of those looks. And if you go back and watch carefully through that Broncos-Chargers game last week, you saw 3 missed deep balls by like a yard each time, from Bo Nix to Marvin Mims to Courtland Sutton. And you know what? He did connect with Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton had over 65 yards. And so has a receiver in every game this year against the LA Chargers. I would be shocked if Malik Neighbors doesn't get 65 yards against this Chargers team at home in week number 4. This one is an over that I love a lot. Neighbors over 63.5 receiving yards at minus 114.
Proppy?
I'm a big Malik Neighbors believer, but I do think it's worth noting that this Chargers pass defense has been the best pass defense in the NFL through 3 weeks. They rank number 1 in essentially every defensive passing metric. So it is a difficult matchup, which has something to do with it, coupled with obviously an inexperienced quarterback. So I do think there is some reason to be slightly cautious here, considering who the Giants are facing.
Sia, does this sound like a showdown?
It does sound like the makings of a showdown, but I'm not part of this.
I'm going to push it.
You can push this, Claudia,
Proppy, you
because
want
I
to go
love a
under?
good showdown. Well, actually, I don't want to go under. What I want to do is I want to challenge both Sia and Dave to a showdown. I'm going under on Matthew Golden,
Sia, you're
and
in
I'm
this
going
now.
under on Malik Neighbors. So let's do 2 showdowns for the price of 1. Both of you right now. I'm your Huckleberry.
Of course I'm in.
We
Completely
accepting?
in. What number are we agreeing on with Matthew Golden, Proppy?
Let's do the 42.5 that you're giving out on the show, Sia.
Okay, and why don't we do
that's fair.
42.5 for Malik Neighbors?
Yeah.
It just sounds
Not how that
Yeah,
works.
just to make it easy so we don't forget.
I will be taking notes, don't worry, and I will do the correct numbers. PropStarz, thank you for taking part in my showdown activities. Bears Raiders, you like Brock Bowers over on receiving yards. Tell us why.
I love Brock Bowers on receiving yards, Claudia, getting just 55.5 yards for Brock Bowers, who I'm very encouraged by. Brock Bowers has not had the dominant season that a lot of people anticipated after the historic rookie season, but despite that, the numbers are still incredible. 20% target share, 19% air yard share, 19% first read target rate, 1.85 yards per route run. Those are all in the top 95 or 95th percentile versatile at the tight end position. And by the way, he's played hurt the last 2 weeks, and he's averaging over 60 yards receiving per game, which is enough to eclipse this, I might add. So this checks all the boxes for me. Also a great matchup against a Chicago team without Jalen Johnson, missing 4 starters on the defense who have been bad defensively. And oh, by the way, Brock Bowers is practicing in full, and on top of that, you had Geno Smith coming out saying that they need to target Brock Bowers more. So put that all together, it checks every single box. This is a multi-unit play for me. Brock Bowers over 55.5 receiving yards. I'd play this up to 63.5. That'd make this number 65.5. I think this is a coming out party, or just a reminder that Brock Bowers is the best pass catching tight end in the NFL.
Sia, we're talking multiple units. How do we feel about this?
So I like it, but here's the thing. Geno Smith, his passing yardage number, I think is highest on the slate. Mm-hmm. I think Bowers could have his game. He's clearly, in my opinion, I think he's shaken off that knee injury. But Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, this Trey Tucker thing is not a one-hit wonder, one-week wonder thing. Even 2 weeks ago, he was targeted in a way where I was like, oh my gosh, this guy might be a thing. Clearly last week he was. I think all 3 of these guys could enjoy success. I'm not taking the Brock Bowers over because it's a little high to me, but I totally respect PropStarz analysis here.
Dave, since we have a little time here, I was on Jacoby Myers last week. I was like Hammer at Home on our Sunday show. He let me down, but you are on him this week.
Bouncing back, and his number, like I said, is higher than Malik Neighbors at 65.5, and I'm taking the over on Jacoby Myers to do that. And it's a specific part of the matchup against Chicago that I'm really digging into. The Bears are going to be without slot cornerback Kyler Gordon again, and so far this season without him, 16.2 yards per catch to slot receivers, more than anyone in the NFL except the Jets. Slots have averaged 73% of a catch rate on a very high 12.2 ADOT. Myers is lined up in the slot about 2/3 of the time so far this season. I think he's an easy option for Geno Smith to go to. I think Geno's going to have an easy time throwing to all these guys. We look at it as a high-scoring back-and-forth affair. I think we can see Jacoby Myers get in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 yards and have a very good game. That's what gives me confidence to take the over on Jacoby Myers, 65.5 receiving yards at -117.
Sia?
Just to correlate this back to the quarterback props, this is part of the reason I like Caleb Williams so much, is because I think it's going to be probably a negative game script, maybe neutral, but either way, Geno Smith's going to push the ball down the field so much. The Bears are going to have to keep pace. I think it's going to be through the passing game.
All right, agreement there, I think, across the board. Quick hit on Chris Olave for me, over 5.5 catches. The Saints offense is obviously terrible, but that means they're playing at a fast pace, one of the fastest in the NFL. Third fastest, I should say, and they're playing from behind. Olave is benefiting. He is leading the league with 37 total targets through 3 weeks, 4th highest target share in the league, and 2nd in contested targets. So even when he is having that tight coverage, Spencer Rattler doesn't care. He's just chucking it downfield, and Chris Olave is finding the ball. So I'm going to go over 5.5 catches. Game script massive here. It's the biggest spread we've seen all season so far at 15.5. The Bills laying that at home. Thoughts, Uncle Dave?
I like it a lot. And we know that we've seen at least 10 targets per game from Chris Olave this season. Call me crazy, but I don't think the Saints are going to play with a lead at Buffalo. So if they're going to have to throw to try and stay in the game, Rattler will do that. Targeting Chris Olave is clearly something he doesn't have a problem with doing.
You can't say call me crazy because I'm going to call you crazy. But that would be crazy if the Saints got a lead in Buffalo.
The Browns found a lead at Green Bay.
I was going to say, some of these games are closer than you think, and then the right team ends up pulling away. But 15.5, there is possibility for a backdoor cover. All right, up next, we're going to head this show into overtime, hit on any of the props that we may have missed, and maybe something else. We'll see. I think I'm seeing a theme with these pictures here. Go Eagles.
Eagles. Eagles.
Hey friends, we're back here on the Early Edge. Sia, Alex, Dave, and Claudia with you. And we're taking this into overtime because we had so much information to give you. We skipped over some of our favorite props of the week. Proppy, I'll go over to you first. CMC, you're going under on rush yards despite all of the injuries on this roster.
I am indeed. Yeah, we're going to go under 75.5 rushing yards for Christian McCaffrey. To his credit, he's handled massive workloads. He's the front runner for comeback player of the year. He's really been a true workhorse for San Francisco, but he has not been very efficient on the ground, averaging just 3.4 yards per carry. He's yet to eclipse this number as well, rushing the football. He's really been great as a dual threat option, catching passes out of the backfield, but he's got a difficult matchup. I've been very surprised by this Jacksonville defense. They have been phenomenal. They rank first in defensive success rate against the rush this season. So this is a much more difficult matchup than it may appear at first glance here. So I think this is an inflated number for C-Mac, despite all the injuries for San Francisco. I'm going to go under 75.5 rushing yards for the great Christian McCaffrey.
Dave, agreement, disagreement in the middle?
I think I'm going to stay away from it. I don't know if I necessarily agree that Christian McCaffrey can't get the work necessary to go over this number, but I do agree with what Prop said about the Jaguars. Their defense has really gotten better. Their linebacker play has gotten better. We know that offensive line for San Francisco, it's not as good as they were. And Nick Bosa, I know this sounds crazy because this is the other side of the ball. McCaffrey's not even on the field. Without Nick Bosa on the field, the dynamics of this matchup change considerably. It makes it a lot easier for Trevor Lawrence to throw the ball downfield. He's not going to be under as much distress as he would be if Bosa were to play. So I think that could actually make this an interesting back and forth game, maybe not quite a high scoring game. I would stay away from this one myself, but I get where you're coming from. If there was a way to go, it would be under because of the inefficiency that Christian McCaffrey's shown us this year.
So yeah.
I don't think the Jaguars' defense is good. They've played the Panthers, the Texans, and the Bengals. I think that was the game that Burrow got injured in. This certainly can't run the ball as it is. So, I mean, I think that sample size is misleading. And that doesn't mean CMC is not going to hit this prop. But, again, I do not think the Jaguars' defense is statistically what they look like right now.
Okay, so under there for Proppy, you also have an under on Jonathan Taylor, Sia.
Yeah, it's a lean. This is not an official play. I just think we're at the height of the market for Jonathan Taylor. At least I would think we're at the height of the market, really, for all the Colts, including perhaps Daniel Jones. But this is up to 88.5 rushing yards. And I just really respect this Rams defense. I really respect this Rams front four and front seven. And I understand that Jonathan Taylor's likely to get, if this is a neutral game script, likely to get 18 to maybe even like 22 carries. But 88.5 yards is a lot, especially with a team that just – what was it? Saquon Barkley didn't even get to 50 yards on 18 carries last week. Right. So, again, I think the stock is so high that I'm just happy to fade it right now. All
right. And, Dave, because I got one to get in here, too, so we'll go to you with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So when I was in school, I liked water. Now, I'm talking about when I was a little Uncle Dave. I liked water. I liked milk, especially chocolate milk, but I didn't like juice. And there's a lot of juice to this one, so bear with me on it. But Amon-Ra St. Brown over 5. I didn't even like popsicles. Amon-Ra St. Brown over 5.5 receptions at -133. So it's kind of juicy to take the over on this, but he's had 7 or more catches in each of his past 2 games. Cleveland plays a lot of man-to-man coverage. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a ridiculously high target per route run rate when Jared Goff sees man coverage. It's like 41% this year. It was close to 25% last year. I think we're going to continue to see St. Brown get those short and intermediate targets and be that little BFF for Jared Goff. If you don't mind laying 130, 133, this is a pretty solid bet. I think St. Brown can get 6+ catches.
You really are my old Uncle Dave, because 133 is not juicy. 140, maybe we're getting in the juicy territory.
This is almost 140, Claudia.
133, that's a lot of cents difference.
7
cents. There's a difference there. Sia, thoughts here.
It's enough to buy a couple of bottles of juice, I guess.
That's true. I like how you started that off. I liked water.
Yeah.
I like water.
You have to hydrate. It's been a theme for me today. What are we talking about?
I mean, that's the thing. I don't even know what we're talking about. That lead-in and setup to saying the word juice, I want the last, 18 seconds, or at least that 18 seconds of my life back.
Funny.
Amon-Ra for 6 catches. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. It is a little juicy, but it's fine. I also like water.
10-point favorites here. How do you see game script going PropStarz according to plan from the odds makers? Do you see this being any closer against the Browns?
First off, I want to point out that when we had a little Uncle Dave, that was back in Civil War times. And then as far as Sia is concerned, Sia's saying the height of the Daniel Jones market's 212 passing yards. I beg to differ there, Sia. Well, it might be for Jonathan Taylor. 212 yards for Daniel Jones is not the height of the passing market for him. I just wanted to get that out there. 212 yards.
Against the Rams on the road. I'm just saying.
I feel like this could be the pumpkin game for Daniel Jones, but 212 isn't that low, isn't that high of a number, I should say.
Right, that's true.
That's why I didn't show it down.
All right, let's see if you guys agree with me on Caleb Williams over on rushing. This number feels way too low at 22.5. Last week against the Raiders, Marcus Mariota, ran it 6 times for 40. Justin Herbert led his squad in rushing the week before that. And I know that Williams is coming off his best passing game, wasn't sacked, the protection looked good, but he still took off with 5 carries. So I think regardless of game script, regardless of protection, this Raiders front, although they haven't had a super high pressure rate, we know that the talent is there. 22.5 rush yards. He's top 10 in scramble rate. Why wouldn't he hit this, Proppy?
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, quarterback rushing props, lower ones are highly volatile in my opinion. This is not a category that I typically bet just because I think they're high variance. But it does make sense on paper, just not a category that I'm personally betting often.
Sia, any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I actually like this quite a bit. I think we might see some design stuff from Caleb, but more importantly, I think he's going to scramble around like he likes to do.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to point out about the right side of the offensive line for the Bears is that they've got some potential injury issues, and that's Max Crosby coming over there as well. And so I think he gets flushed out of the pocket a couple of times. He is going to drop back a ton. That's always good for quarterback rushing yards. So, yeah, I really like this. And don't forget, we're talking about desperation mode when we talk about the Ravens game and the Chiefs game. Nobody wants. This is desperation mode for Caleb Williams specifically, and perhaps the Chicago Bears as a whole this season. I know it's early in the season, but Caleb needs to shake some reputational stuff, and getting a win here would be really important to him. He's going to do everything he can.
I don't know if it's desperation mode, though. They're coming off of a win. Obviously, if they win the game, they're 2-2. They're going to feel great about themselves. But I don't think expectations in that locker room are so sky high that they're going to feel terrible if they're 1-3. Like the loser of the Ravens-Chiefs game, they're going to feel like doo-doo because they're 1-3. The Bears, I don't think they're going to be in that type of panic mode if they end up being 1-3, which, by the way, I think they will.
Can I ask you guys this quickly, and then we're going to get to break. Ravens or Chiefs, whoever loses, can they turn the season around?
Absolutely.
The Ravens can.
Ravens,
I
not
think
Chiefs?
both can. There are so many players that are due to come back and be impactful, especially for Kansas City. Kansas City on offense, Baltimore on defense. Wouldn't surprise me if we see these two teams playing in a playoff game in January.
And getting Worthy back, obviously huge for the Chiefs. Ravens or Chiefs, you see either of them turning it around if they go to 1-3, Proppy?
Sure. Yeah. When you have Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, anything's possible.
Thank you for that positivity. All right, we'll be back here in the early edge to wrap things up with Best Bets. Back here on the early edge, wrapping up week 4 prop shows with another prop, because Proppy, I forgot to let you talk about Jaylen Warren, and then we'll get into Best Bets. Tell us why you like Jaylen Warren this week.
Claudia, what if I told you Jaylen Warren has never had more than 15 rushing attempts in a game in his career, and his rushing attempt line is set at 15.5. This is a big number, clearly, for Jaylen Warren, who is the feature back in this Pittsburgh offense, but they do like to use Kenneth Gainwell quite a bit. And Jaylen Warren, while I do love his skill set, he's a really good receiver out of the backfield. He's had durability issues throughout his career, and he has not played particularly well when he was hurt. That was the case last season. So I just think it's unlikely that he's going to receive a big workload in this game against Minnesota, who does have a very strong run defense. Both of these offenses play very slow, very methodical, like to grind clock. So I just think if we look at the potential range of outcomes, Jaylen Warren getting 16 rushing attempts is pretty unlikely.
All right, lots of props on the board for you, Proppy. Can we do a quick recap of what you have, and then we'll all give out our best bet, picking one of each other's. So taking a look at PropStarz, he's on Daniel Jones over on passing yards, Amarian Hampton rush yards, Jalen Warren under, Christian McCaffrey under, and then an over for Brock Bowers. Take a picture in your mind. One of us may be choosing those for our best bets. All right, let's take a look at Uncle Dave's best bets for week 4, if we can. They're coming somewhere. Are they? There they are. Carson Wentz under 30 and the hook pass attempts. Patrick Mahomes over 4.5 rush, which I gotta say, I do like that one. Malik Neighbors over on the receiving yards. We had some disagreement there. And then Jacoby Myers, who, like I said, last week I went over on the 5.5 catches. He let me down, but we're gonna run it back this week, over 65 in the hook receiving yards. All right, take a screenshot in your memory. And now we're gonna go to Sia's best bets for week 4. His favorite props, we got Caleb Williams over on passing yards, Blake Corum over on rush yards. Then Matthew Golden, we also had a little disagreement there, over where he got it at 36 in the hook, where you could have gotten it on SportsLine earlier this week, but now it's been jacked up. To what, Sia? What did we give it out?
42.5.
42.5.
Which I'm still okay taking it there.
And you said you would even ladder it even more, okay? And then me. What did Claudia do this week? I did have Caleb Williams. I went Caleb Williams over
Aaron
rushing,
Rodgers,
which I just gave. We have a frozen graphic, but I can tell you guys because I am Claudia. I had Aaron Rodgers interception, Cam Scatterbu over rushing and receiving at 77.5. Like I said, Caleb Williams over 22.5 rush yards, and Chris Olave over 5.5 catches. And our graphic is frozen, which is fine. You can still hear our voices as far as I know. So, Dave, let's take a look at Sia's props right here. Anything you like here? If not, tell us what your best bet of the week is going to be.
I don't love anything here. The Caleb Williams one is my favorite one of Sia's, but actually my favorite prop of the week is one of yours, Claudia.
Oh.
Aaron Rodgers interception plus 106. Your graphic should be the one frozen on the screen so we could focus on Rodgers getting that pick against the Minnesota Vikings. How many turnovers did they have last week of the Cincinnati Bengals? I don't think the Steelers' offense is that much better than Cincinnati's. Rodgers probably better than Jake Browning. I think Minnesota can find an interception at plus 106.
All right, Sia, since your bets are up on the board, of course you like those ones, but if you had to choose one of ours, what would be your best bet?
So I broke it down to 3. I liked Jalen Warren under 15.5 rush attempts. I liked Dave's Carson Wentz under 30.5 pass attempts. And I liked your Caleb Williams over 22.5 rush yards. But I'm going to go with Proppy's, the last one he gave out. Jalen Warren under 15.5 rush attempts, minus 128.
All right, and Proppy, will go to you.
I have written on. We're back. Hello, guys. How are we doing? I have actually written on my hand Carson Wentz under 30.5 attempts because soon as this stream concludes, I'm going to my brick and mortar sportsbook. Shout out to the great Lene Casino and Resort, and I will be placing a significant wager fading Carson Wentz. So I love that look from my Uncle Dave.
Let's see it. You say you wrote it on your hand?
Yeah,
Prove
let's see it.
Prove it.
It's here.
You're not supposed to do that, that's not good for you.
I'm just glad he didn't do it on his middle finger, and then we asked him to show us then, because then that would have been...
and then we'd be frozen again on purpose.
Yeah, right.
All right, my best bet, I don't know, guys. You gave out a lot of good ones. I want to run it back with Jacoby Myers, but I can't get burned 2 weeks in a row.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go with another quarterback rush attempts, like I said. And don't forget the early edge. You can scan that barcode for SportsLine and Betting Podcast. But I do like, who do I like? Patrick Mahomes over on rush attempts at 4.5. I just think this is going to be a very close back and forth game, as the spread clearly shows us. I do like the Ravens to win this one, which if we have some time, I want to get your quick thoughts on which side you like there. And again, he is the quarterback when he's most comfortable. He is scrambling. He's using his legs, and 4.5 seems too low for what we've seen from him in every game. 6, 7, 5. I do think he'll be facing some pressure. So I'm going to go Mahomes over on rush attempts. Quick thoughts, Dave. Ravens, Chiefs.
I think Kansas City finds a way. I know it sounds silly, but, well, maybe not that silly based on the way that the Ravens defense looked last week.
It's the Chiefs.
It is the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is pretty good. We haven't seen the Ravens with the killer instinct yet this year.
Okay.
That worries me. And I picked them to win the Super Bowl, too.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah,
See,
I don't
any
feel good about
thoughts,
that.
Chiefs, Ravens? small spread.
I also picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, and early in the week I liked the Ravens in this one, but I'm on Dave's side here. I think it's Kansas City. I mean, you look what the Detroit defense did against the Ravens last week. Steve Spagnuolo gets it now. I think he's going to be able to confuse Lamar in this offense, and I like the fact that Xavier Wardley's coming back. This offense might be a little bit more dynamic. Give me the Chiefs.
All right, we got 30 seconds quick, Dave. Yeah.
Mahomes is 5-1 all time against the Ravens. That includes the playoffs.
Proppy, Ravens, Chiefs.
Really looking forward to this matchup. The slightest of leans to the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is playing incredible football despite the 1-2 start.
I'm with you. I'm all over the Ravens under that key number 3. Lamar sacked 7 times last week. That's not going to happen. Don't forget, you can catch us on the Early Edge every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. For Sia, PropStarz, Dave, I'm Claudia. As we always like to end the show with, let's hit it big!